Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into the Skinner box. But before we begin, let me ask you a few questions. Why do you sometimes feel your phone vibrating, even when it hasn't made a sound? Why is the pull to refresh gesture on almost every app designed like a slot machine? And most importantly, why do your fingers keep scrolling even after you've told yourself a dozen times, it's time for bed? In today's episode, we'll uncover the truth behind these behaviors. We'll explore how a blueprint designed 80 years ago is now precisely harvesting every second from 8 billion people across the globe. The year was 1930. The place, Harvard University's psychology lab. A young man named B.F. Skinner believed that studying invisible inner feelings, or free will, was scientifically pointless. He introduced a theory that sent chills down the spine of academia: radical behaviorism. To Skinner, humans and animals are essentially black boxes. You don't need to wonder what kind of soul or emotion is inside. That's too subjective. As a behavioral engineer, you only need to focus on two things: input, stimulus, and output, behavior. This cold, data-driven view of life has deep roots. Before Skinner, John B. Watson, the founding father of behaviorism, issued a near-maniacal manifesto to the world. He famously said, "Give me a dozen healthy infants, well-formed and my own specified world to bring them up in, and I'll guarantee to take anyone at random and train him to become any type of specialist I might select. Doctor, lawyer, artist, merchant chief, and, yes, even beggarman and thief." If Watson was the prophet of this movement, Skinner was the man who turned that prophecy into a precision algorithm. To prove his hypothesis, Skinner built a device officially known as the operant conditioning chamber, better known as the Skinner box. It was a soundproof, isolated space where light and temperature were strictly controlled to sever the subject's connection with the outside world, inducing a state of isolation and hunger. Inside, a lever or a disc was mounted on the wall. Below it, a tray connected to an automated dispenser. Press the lever, get a treat. Skinner placed pigeons and rats inside, training them to trigger the mechanism for food. Skinner realized that controlling a living being doesn't require commands, it requires inducement. He developed a technique called shaping. The core logic is simple: break a complex goal into tiny, micro steps. The moment you take even the smallest step toward the target, a reward instantly drops. It's like how we train a puppy with treats, or how a video game gives you XP for every minor task. It exploits our most primal instinct, to chase pleasure and avoid pain. Under this mechanism, you fall into the illusion of free choice. But in reality, you aren't walking freely. You are simply following a track of tiny rewards, laid down by a controller, leading you to a predetermined finish line. Now let's pull back the curtain on how this experiment actually worked. In the first stage, the pigeon didn't even have to press the button. If it simply turned its head toward the target, click, the researcher triggered the switch, and a treat dropped. At that exact moment, a faint connection was sparked in the pigeon's brain. Looking in that direction leads to a win. By the second stage, looking was no longer enough. The pigeon had to physically move toward the button. The moment it took a step forward, click, the reward arrived. In the third stage, the bar was raised even higher. The pigeon had to get close and mimic a pecking motion, even if it was just pecking the air. As long as the movement was right, it got fed. Finally, in the last stage, the reward only dropped when the pigeon delivered a surgical strike directly onto the button. Through this relentless cycle of instant feedback, Skinner literally rewired the pigeon's neural circuits. He didn't just teach it a trick. He performed a precision physiological remodeling. Think about the first time you download a new food delivery app. It doesn't pressure you to buy a full meal right away. Instead, the moment you open it, a bright, celebratory pop-up takes over your screen. "Welcome, here's $20 off your first order." Or perhaps it's a shopping platform promising that you can pick a free gift just for signing up. Most people think the platform is being generous. In reality, they are baiting you into that first click. The moment you claim that discount or select that free gift, you've established your first connection with the software. Your brain subconsciously notes, opening this icon leads to an instant win. From there, the system trains you just like those pigeons. The coupons get harder to find, the tasks get more complex, and before you know it, you're investing hours of your time, all chasing those tiny, pre-programmed dopamine hits. But Skinner didn't stop there. He wanted to prove that his behavioral sculpting could control more than just individuals. It could control social competition. He placed two pigeons at opposite ends of a box, separated by a miniature ping-pong table with a goal at each end. First, he established the feedback. Whenever the ball rolled toward them, if the pigeon pecked it, food dropped. At this point, the ball wasn't a toy. It was a trigger for survival. Then, he implanted the logic of competition. He changed the rules. The pigeon only got fed if it knocked the ball into the opponent's goal. He successfully turned the opponent's failure into personal reward. To get that food, the pigeons began to play with terrifying mechanical intensity. They tracked the ball with surgical precision, counter-attacking and repositioning instantly. Their movements were so cold and robotic, you'd forget you were looking at living creatures. This experiment perfectly explains why every app on your phone now features referral bonuses, daily streaks, or global leaderboards. The most insidious part of the algorithm is this. It's not satisfied with controlling just you. It wants to turn you into its unpaid recruiter. When you send a referral link to a friend to help you unlock a prize, or share a post just to get a small discount, you are that pigeon in the box, frantically slamming the ball into your friend's goal. You aren't just being shaped by the algorithm anymore. You have become the very tool the algorithm uses to pull everyone you know into the program, completing a massive global scale of domestication. You might think the story ends here, but we've only just scratched the surface. You see, a one-to-one reward system, where every action yields a result, isn't efficient enough for the masters of manipulation. So, Skinner made one tiny, terrifying adjustment to the box. He scrapped the predictable rewards and introduced a computer-controlled logic called variable ratio reinforcement. In simple terms, he made the rewards random. The pigeon might get food after one press, or 10, or 50. There was no pattern, no logic, no certainty. The result? The pigeons went completely insane. Driven by the hope of a reward that might come next, they began slamming their beaks against the button several times a second, mechanically, relentlessly. Some pecked until their beaks were bruised. Others were so exhausted they could barely stand. Even when they were full, they couldn't stop. They were no longer animals. They were biological machines, hopelessly addicted to a button. Why does randomness have such terrifying power? Decades later, neuroscientists found the answer through MRI scans. Our brains don't actually crave the reward itself. They crave the anticipation of the reward. When you're 100% sure a reward is coming, your dopamine levels remain flat. Your brain thinks it's entitled to it. But when the reward is uncertain, the desperate hope that the next one might be it causes dopamine to erupt like a volcano. The thrill of maybe is 10,000 times more addictive than the satisfaction of certainly. In the real world, there is a place built as a perfect one-to-one replica of the Skinner box, the casino. Step onto a casino floor and you enter a sensory dead zone. There are no windows, no clocks, and the lighting never changes. Many high-end casinos even pump high concentrations of oxygen and custom scents into the air. The goal is singular. Keep your brain in a state of hyper-arousal, numbing your sense of fatigue, ensuring you stay in that seat, just like Skinner's tireless pigeons. The most profitable game here isn't poker. It's the slot machine, a device that perfectly executes the random reward logic. Through a precise pity mechanism, the system drops a tiny win just as you're about to give up, effectively restarting your addiction. But the most insidious trick is the near miss. Think of the classic 777 jackpot. The machine is programmed to frequently show you 2 sevens, with the third one just a hair away. In that moment, your brain releases even more dopamine than if you had actually won. It tricks you into a dangerous illusion, the feeling that you are this close to winning. Doesn't that sound familiar? A windowless room, a glowing screen, and a reward that's always just one more click away. Tell me, does this feel like a world of free choice? Or are we all just living in a perfectly designed Skinner box? If the casino still requires you to step through its doors, the product managers in Silicon Valley have managed to compress that entire system into the palm of your hand. Have you ever noticed that the moment a tiny red dot appears on an app icon, your hand moves instinctively to tap it. You might think you have OCD. In reality, the algorithm has planted a thorn in your mind. This is the most cunning trick in the book. In our subconscious, the color red signals danger or urgency. It triggers in primal anxiety. Most of the time, that red dot isn't a life-changing message. It's just a useless ad. But you don't tap it to read the content. You tap it to extinguish the fire. You think you're managing your information, but you're just a puppet, performing a click to relieve the stress the system intentionally gave you. But let's look closer at the physical ritual. Think about the iconic move at a slot machine, pulling that heavy metal lever. That motion is a ritual of the gamble. Today, developers have turned that heavy lever into a gesture you repeat hundreds of times a day. The pull to refresh, or the infinite scroll. When you flick your thumb to reveal the next video, you have no idea what's coming. Is it a hilarious meme or a boring sponsored post? This curiosity bypasses your logic and hijacks your brain's reward circuitry, flooding it with dopamine. The most terrifying part? This lever has no end. In the past, when you finished a book or a newspaper, you hit a stopping signal. But today's platforms have dismantled the brakes. Through infinite scrolling, the content flows like an endless river. Your sense of time is completely paralyzed because your brain is stuck in a loop of one more pull. Before you know it, you look out the window and the sun has already set. But the cruelest application of this mechanism isn't in apps, it's in our emotions. Have you ever spent an entire night refreshing a chat window, waiting for a reply that never comes, or checking the profile of someone who has already ghosted you? To study this obsession, Skinner ran a comparative experiment. He took two groups of pigeons. Group A was the rational group. They were used to getting a reward for every single press. Group B was the random group, the ones conditioned by the unpredictable slot machine logic. Then, Skinner cut off the food supply entirely. The results were heartbreaking. Group A realized the food was gone and gave up within 30 minutes. But Group B, the random group, lost their minds. One pigeon, despite receiving 0 rewards, pecked at that unresponsive button over 10,000 times before it finally collapsed. In those moments of digital heartbreak, you are no different from that pigeon. In your mind, no reply doesn't mean it's over. It means maybe the next one. That maybe is a hallucination, a straw clutched by a drowning man. It won't save you, but it will keep you dangling. This is why we see so many people today stuck in toxic, one-sided loops of devotion. You think you're fighting for true love, but in reality, you're just trapped in a box with no exit. The person on the other side might not care about your feelings at all. They might just be watching to see how many times you'll peck at a button that will never give you what you need. This logic is pushed to its absolute limit in the workplace. Look at the gig economy drivers risking their lives in traffic to hit an on-time bonus. Look at the white-collar workers at midnight, eyes bloodshot, staring at a progress bar labeled KPI. In those moments, we are no different from the pigeons in the box. The KPI is the button. You press it with everything you've got, believing you're changing your destiny. But in reality, this logic is the true engine behind what we now call hustle culture. The cruelest part? The KPI is a moving target. The moment you push yourself to meet a deadline, the algorithm records your limit. Then it uses that data to push the bar even higher next time. This is the essence of the rat race. You think your hard work is a path to success, but you are simply becoming a parameter in the system's optimization, a tool being calibrated by its master. If digital addiction is the algorithm exploiting your instincts, then this next discovery is its ultimate mockery of the human spirit. Skinner observed a bizarre phenomenon during his experiments: superstition. He programmed the machine to drop food every 15 seconds automatically, regardless of what the pigeon did. But he noticed something strange. One pigeon happened to be spinning in a circle at the exact moment the food dropped. It concluded, "Spinning brings the food." Soon, the pigeon was spinning frantically in its box, over and over until it was dizzy. This is the scientific root of luck and rituals. In a world of total randomness, our brains are so desperate for a sense of control that they create causal links where none exist. It's the person performing a lucky ritual before opening a mystery box, or the day trader on Wall Street following a superstitious indicator that has no basis in reality. It proves a chilling truth. If the mechanism is precise enough, a living being can be stripped of its will and completely alienated into a tool that exists only to execute commands. If social connection, pleasure, and even our deepest emotions can be mass-produced and fed to us through that glowing little box, then is our society truly evolving? Or are we simply becoming part of one massive, never-ending Skinner box? In the history of psychology, there is an even more chilling experiment, one that feels like a dark prophecy for the end of civilization. I won't name it today. I'm saving the full story for a future episode, but I want to give you a glimpse of what happened. In this study, a colony of mice was given everything: infinite food, infinite space, and absolute safety. It was a perfect paradise. It mirrors our current fast food era, where every primitive desire can be satisfied with a single tap on a screen. But the result was a nightmare. Without any challenges, enemies, or the need to struggle, these mice collectively stopped socializing. They lost interest in mating, in their young, and in the real world around them. In the heart of this flawless heaven, they simply gave up on life until the entire population went extinct. Those mice, dying in their paradise, are no different from us at this very moment. Heads bowed, lost in a digital fog, locked inside our handheld cages. When you outsource your emotions and your perception of reality to a screen, you aren't living. You are being precision-fed. You think you're seeing the world, but you're only seeing a hallucination curated by an algorithm. Every tear and every laugh is a pre-programmed physiological response. The tragedy of this second-hand life is this: you think you are the one experiencing it, but in reality, you are the one being consumed. The algorithm doesn't need you to think, it just needs you to be like that pigeon, mechanically hitting the switch until you exhaust your only non-renewable resource, your time. So how do we escape? Psychology offers a concept called selective friction. The algorithm craves total fluidity. It wants your life to be fast, smooth, and mindless. To fight back, we must intentionally create trouble. We must reclaim the sovereignty of our minds. There is a beautiful line by the poet Mushin. In the past, the days moved slowly. The carriages, the horses, the mail, all were slow. A lifetime was only long enough to love one person. To an algorithm, this slowness is an error, but to us, it is our only salvation. When everything moves too fast, human emotion becomes thin. Only when we slow down can we feel the true weight of being alive. So go do something that requires you to be there, face to face. Walk a path without a GPS. Love a person who is flawed, stubborn, and real. Why? Because the friction of reality is the only antidote to the dopamine trap. The happiness on your screen is purified water. It's quick, but it offers no soul. The real world is noisy and difficult, but our dignity lies in our ability to endure this inefficient imperfection and feel the raw power of life within it. Don't live as a pigeon in a box. Turn off the screen. Feel the wind. Listen to the streets. Take back your first-hand experience of this world. It might be hard, but it is the only evidence that you were ever truly alive. That's all for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.